After a prisoner swap in Abu Dhabi, US basketball star Brittany Griner is now back in the United States after spending 9 months in a Russian prison. Sweden and Finland are close to becoming NATO members, according to US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, with Turkey's demands being fulfilled.
How a light installation in Lyon is connecting communities across Europe, all while focusing on sustainability.
The quarter-finals of the 2022 World Cup kick off on Friday as Argentina and the Netherlands lock horns and Brazil takes on Croatia. After a prison swap in Abu Dhabi, US basketball player Brittany Griner has now landed back in the United States after being exchanged with Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout. Griner was arrested in February on charges of attempting to smuggle in drugs into Russia after cannabis oil was found in her luggage in a Russian airport. Her arrest was thrown into a geopolitical dispute between the United States and Russia, with tension simmering at the time with the war in Ukraine. US President Joe Biden came under scrutiny for not intervening to retrieve the Americans sooner. But he did welcome the news of Griner's release, standing beside the star's wife, saying that she's in good spirits. Viktor Bout was welcomed home to his mother and wife with tears in his eyes. Known as the Merchant of Debt, he was arrested in 2008 in a sting operation in Thailand by the FBI, trying to smuggle weapons. Griner's release does highlight another issue. Canadian-born and former US Marine Paul Whelan is still in prison in Russia since 2019 on suspicion of spying. A senior official spoke at length with Whelan about Wednesday's news. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he's confident that both NATO candidates, Sweden and Finland, will become members very soon.
Finland commits to NATO's.
It's important, first of all, to put this in perspective. When it comes to the accession of new members, in this case, Finland and Sweden, the process has never moved faster. All 30 allies signed the accession protocols. 28 of the 30, of course, have ratified them, and we are working toward the additional ratifications, Turkey and Hungary. And I am convinced, based on everything I know, that we will soon be able to call both countries formally our allies.
Turkey argues that NATO hopefuls have been too lax in ignoring threats to Turkey from Kurdish militants, but both Finland and Sweden say they have been fulfilling Turkey's demands. Sweden last week extradited Mahmud Tat, who is wanted by Ankara for membership in the Kurdistan Workers' Party. The two Nordic countries rethought and abandoned their traditional military non-alignment shortly after neighbouring Russia invaded Ukraine in February. A new era. That's how Chinese President Xi Jinping described bilateral talks with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on the second day of his 3-day visit to Riyadh. The two leaders have signed a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement, including one involving tech company Huawei and another securing Saudi crude oil exports to China. The meeting between the two leaders is being carefully watched by the United States, whose relations with the Gulf state and the Asian superpower remain highly fractured.
Entering Gaza is not easy, especially for someone like Ricardo, the first European Erasmus exchange student in history who traveled to a war zone back in 2019 to learn about emergency surgery. The difficult crossing between Israel and the Strip was the first of many challenges the Italian national came across during his experience. But a new Italian documentary is more than a story about his journey. Erasmus in Gaza is about what it takes to pursue one's dreams. We met Riccardo in Verona, where he's doing his residency. He tells us he will forever be grateful for that experience.
You cannot be ready for something like this. Nobody ever trains you to handle mass shootings where there are 50 people arriving at the same time within a space of 10 minutes, all with gunshot wounds. So you can find yourself in such a situation. It can be very impactful. It was also very hard to manage emotionally. But after going through that, I got the confirmation that this is what I want to do in my life.
Being a student without preconceptions about the war is what pushed the directors to tell his story. But there was one question they wanted to answer by making this documentary.
Can cultural diplomacy fill the void that has been left by political diplomacy, which has completely failed its mission? After this experience, what we can say is that the Erasmus project is about the European Union taking a huge responsibility. It's a program that aims to build bridges instead of walls.
In this specific context, the Erasmus programme is like a tool for peace, and it reflects the European identity. It's like opening up new horizons for both Ricardo and the people living in Gaza. They are completely isolated, they live in a prison, and they don't know what it means to meet an outsider. So Ricardo represents this. He embodies the Western world that they have never known.
Thinking about the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Ricardo believes whole wars are the same. He says they're like an illness that can affect everyone, everywhere.
Being able to attend the same class together with other people who come from different parts of the world is something that can unite people with different cultural backgrounds. And when you get to know each other, we're not afraid of one another. And when there's no fear, there's no war.
Both directors hope that Ricardo's experience can inspire other students to do the same in other parts of the world. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews in Verona.
A ray of light reaching out to the whole world. Scottish artist Craig Morrison is behind the Beacon of Hope project, an uplifting multimedia sculpture at Lyon's Festival of Lights, which took over the Lumiere Institute Gardens. The installation invites local people to get involved in its creation. Around its central wooden structure, locals help by weaving ribbons in a nod to Lyon's silk-making past. Made from sustainably resourced materials, the piece also boasts low energy consumption. The lighting was created by Emilien Guénard and tells the story of young migrants.
It's really, really unusual, I think, to engage with the local participants and then to engage with these young migrants and bring them together to work and to understand each other, to get them to hold the ladder while another person's going up and adjusting a piece of light. It's a really, really positive, really, really humbling experience for me to work in that way, because they're just a story on the news normally, whereas you get to meet them and it's kind of incredibly powerful.
Teams in 3 European cities worked together on this project in Eindhoven, Jyväskylä and Lyon, showing how local culture can also be global.
I had an idea that emerged in connection with this festival, and I wondered what could we do together to think up new ways of creating that are both sustainable in their design and also inclusive, because we know that light is also something very cultural.
The Beacon project aims to inspire other light events around the world.
It's probably one of the future of these type of events, to be more collaborative, to be more sustainable, to be more inclusive, more participative, work with the communities directly in the neighborhoods and do things together. So, yeah, we think it's one of the possible futures for light festivals in the world, definitely.
Beacon of Light, A
beacon of light tells the story of young migrants who travelled through Libya. They were kidnapped and imprisoned, but finally found freedom in Lyon. This year's Festival of Lights tells captivating stories of courage, told from the heart of artists who unite to illuminate these important causes. Patricia Tavares in Lyon for Euronews.
The quarter-finals of the 2022 World Cup kicks off on Friday as Argentina and the Netherlands lock horns at the Lusail Stadium. Lionel Messi's teammates were made to work against Australia in their last 16 clash and will need to be more clinical up front against a solid Dutch defence, which has only conceded 2 goals so far in Qatar. Louis van Gaal's men overcame the USA 3-1 to book their spot in the last 8. The other quarter-final sees Brazil take on Croatia Our correspondent Sam Ashu in Doha has the latest.
Well, such is the quality of this Brazil side. Training behind me, the Croatia boss Zlatko Dalic has described them as terrifying. Not surprising either, given that scintillating first-half performance against South Korea on Monday. One of the scorers that night was Neymar, goal number 76 for him. Should he score against Croatia, it would tie Pele's record of 77. As for their opponents, well, they snuck past Japan in the round of 16 game. They will have to be at their absolute best if they are to beat a Brazil side looking for their 6th FIFA World Cup. Sam Ashu for Euronews in Doha.